started up correctly, but as we're waiting for that, thank you everyone who's tuning into this after it has been live broadcasting. This afternoon, or tonight, whatever it may be. Maybe you're in the Bahamas, and I don't even know what time it is there. I'm talking with some wolves, and what's to say, some things that you're going to hear might make you howl. So, we have Blueface Wolf, also known as Sub-Zero Wolf. We have him entering here at our Dynasty this afternoon. And then we also have, you guys have seen Michael Wolf. If you saw our previous podcast and tuned into that, it was a 2-parter or 3-parter. And we're going to kind of just hop into some great territories of questioning your mind, questioning what's going on. Are we living in 19? This might not look the most professional, but the thing is working. Honestly, Australia. The things going on in Australia right now, comparatively to America. And it's actually pretty crazy when you think about the restrictions and other things around this whole entire disease and how things have amplified. And I was actually talking to someone today in the store, and we were filling up our waters, and I talked about how I felt like, the COVID in one sense was kind of a good time for reflection and understanding for my own self and kind of seeing things that really mattered and didn't matter as much. But then there's also this, other things that have come along with the whole entire COVID, and there's lots of controversies about everything. Well, who's telling the truth? What's going on? And I know you guys have been pack leaders of your own wolf tribes, and you've searched for answers, and so I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts about it. Either wolf can howl.
Zero Wolf.
Yeah, Sub-Zero Wolf, please.
Oh, I don't know. At first, I kind of was skeptical about it, and then I got to a point where, maybe this is happening. It's real. And then I go back and forth. Don't know what's really going on. It's like a disease you can't see, and I know there's something out there, but I just wonder if it's not underlying conditions, and they're kind of inflating the numbers of people that have it and have been tested. And it's really gone off the charts since the schools have all opened back up and went back to normal classroom activity. So it's just where I'm at on that.
For the way like teachers and social distancing with kids inside of the classrooms itself, making sure people don't stay so close. Like, it's just changing the dynamic of kids that go to school, and, also change the dynamic of, after school activities and everything else. But, I don't have kids, so I don't really know how I would feel about it, I don't know the age limit, if there's certain restrictions in some areas with masks, and, like, the age of the kids, or, what it may be.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you are. If I had my own kids, if my own kids were back in school again, it'd be kind of hard to send them to school not knowing if this is real or if they could get infected, and that'd be something on us as parents. I know a lot of people that had to send their kids back to school, and they were kind of freaking out about it, and I can understand that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'd feel it'd be like a little bit, I don't know, just uncomfortable, really. Like, I don't know, with everything that's going on, kind of my mind state recently is kind of go find a place not out of town in the middle of the boonies, but a little bit more off grid, and, make sure I'm learning more about how to make my own vegetables and make, be self-sufficient in that sense, or at least have more backup supplies for things, and just getting myself mentally, like, if something was to hit the fan, I'd be feeling a lot more safer than being closer to the city and having to follow maybe this regulation. And I don't know if either of you have ever had kind of that thought, or Like, like it just keeps, not like I'm like a hardcore prepper or anything, but it's better to be safe than be sorry for sure.
Yeah. Um, well, I guess to kind of go back and answer your question about what I thought about COVID, um, obviously, I think that it's part of a bigger agenda, and it kind of checks all the boxes of what the people that run this whole thing. Like Carlin would call them the owners, David Icke would call them the cult. There's it's a belief system that kind of unites them all, and an idea that they're superior somehow, whether it's by divine intervention or whether it's by evolution or whatever. They believe that they're the superior types and that we at the bottom are expendable, and we're just kind of there, to keep the machines running and keep their world going for them. And it seems like we're getting to a point now where the technology is getting so advanced that we're kind of expendable now, and it checks all the different boxes of the different things that they want and the different things that they've written about. Like they write about population control, they write about wanting to get rid of what they term as like the useless eaters, which are people that are older that aren't able to work anymore, people that are maybe sick, people that are maybe mentally infirm in some way, the people that can't produce in this society. So it gets it, like for example in New York, where there were nurses that came out, and this has been a few months ago, where they said that they're basically like killing people by putting them on ventilators. You know what I mean? And it was just, they were unconscious and they're killing them with ventilators. And they were like, we don't know why we're using ventilators, because whatever they have, it's very similar to high altitude sickness, where the pressure is so great on the lungs that you shouldn't put them on a ventilator, because it increases the pressure, and it was literally killing people.
Oh,
There were
wow.
several nurses. I mean, I could, if I get a chance, I can pull it up, but it's pretty easy to Google it. There's been several people that talk about it. So that's one part of it. The AI and the robotics agenda is another thing that's coming out of this. I saw a video from, I think, CNBC the other day, and it was talking about automation in the age of COVID-19, and it was talking about how something like 80% of jobs that pay from 15 to 20%, or excuse me, 15 to $20 an hour, could be replaced by robotics.
Yeah, yeah.
And about how robots don't get, the case being made was like robots don't get sick, robots don't need health care, blah blah blah. So the idea is kind of already being pushed out there of that. And then obviously you have the social distancing aspect, where if you look at it during, say, like the Cold War, they had the communism scare, where your neighbor could be a communist, so you better keep an eye on them, and you better make sure that they're a good American and they're doing all the stuff that the authorities tell them that they should be doing. Or maybe they're communists and you should report them. And then you go fast forward, when the Cold War is over, then you have Al Qaeda, and it's the same message. You better watch your neighbor, because they could be terrorists, and report anything that they're doing that might be suspicious. Well, now we have an enemy that's invisible, and that anybody, according to the media, can have. And so there's this culture of being afraid of each other, being afraid of your neighbor, of having people in society gang up on people who don't want to wear a mask, and it's like it's almost turning society into sort of a police state, but without the police. They've been talking about defunding the police and all that, and it's almost like a mob rule kind of situation. And I think that that's another agenda. Now, of course, I think that it also plays into getting people to run back to government, because when you have all this chaos happening, people are going to cling to the only thing that brings order. And of course, in this situation, it's going to be government, it's going to be National Guard. So people are going to be cheering that. And so there's all these different agendas that are going on at once. And I think that COVID, it has sped up all of these different plans to change society, and people have adapted so fast. That's what's kind of scary about it. People just adjusted.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on that because when the whole entire thing came out, at first it was kind of like putting a foot stop to the whole entire situation, like start following this rule, start doing this, but honestly, they kind of waited so long that like kind of makes it a little bit questionable the whole ordeal of it because like if you were to wait that long, then how can you now expect this to happen after it's already had this time period of it already would have been boom boom boom, and then the false numbers and all the other things, like when it comes down to when they say like if someone got in a car wreck but they had COVID, they died from COVID, adding that to the number, like that doesn't make much sense.
Well, and then you have like, what was it, Event 201, which was a drill that was done back in November of last year, put on by the Gates Foundation and Johns Hopkins University, which of course Johns Hopkins University are the ones who are counting all the COVID deaths right now. It's based on their numbers, and they had this event where it was like a simulated uh, virus that wiped out a bunch of people, and it was a coronavirus is the type of virus that it was in this, you know, simulation. That's why a lot of people are calling what we're going through now a pandemic, not a pandemic,
Mm.
because it was planned ahead of time.
Yeah, and I can actually completely understand and see that. I mean, with all that has gone on, to kind of see how far an envelope could get pushed, and like even as like a civilian of the whole entire thing, it's put me in a different mind state of things, like how the store is, the whole entire aspect of like what happens if the stores have been closed another 2 weeks, or what happens if like this thing actually is dropping people like flies, like really dropping people like flies, not this like this guy, someone got positive and I was working with him in a trailer. And like I was like, well, I don't wear a mask, and I'm just gonna keep eating healthy. I'm gonna take care of my temple, and like I find the true conspiracy is like it's about taking care of your body, and like you guys should be advertising and showing things about like self improvement instead of fear, and then placing that inside of people's minds, and that's how they're embodying and all that, and that's not helping, and that's what the news wants. It just wants to produce that so it gets attention, and then there's certain stats and things you can say, and there's restrictions, and I think America, I can't speak for other countries, but for America, I mean, that's kind of what our rule is kind of have your freedom, and to see, like what's going on in Australia, and what you're saying with the automation, like that's gigantic. Honestly, it's crazy because I was saying it like 2 years ago to someone. I'm like, why would you, if with a material type of way the well-being of the normal society is, and the way getting things done, getting things processed, getting things sent out, why would you not have a robot driving a car delivering mail? Why would you not have it working inside of your factory non-stop working? You don't have to pay any benefits. You just have to pay for that sum for the fucking robot at first. And so
Yeah, but it comes down to you're talking about robotic or autonomous vehicles. They have tractors that will work out in the fields now. But as far as being around, those machines are out in the. I mean, they're out away from people. They're out in the. I just don't far enough along technology wise to do stuff in a urban area. It's too dangerous. It'd be too many lives. I mean, if one glitch in that system and somebody gets run over, then what do you do then? Um, but I don't know. And you were talking earlier about looking at people and everybody's an enemy now, and I get that when I go into a restaurant or go into a store. I'm looking around at people and I'm trying to stay away from them. And 6 months ago, everybody had been right close together. Nobody would have thought a thing of it. It's so weird that all this stuff happened, and I think it's another agenda. I don't know. I think it's just it is what it is. I guess.
Yeah, that is definitely. That's kind of. I don't know. To say that is what it is, though, kind of gives me like, we're just gonna allow it to be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem, though, because like, okay, so for this massless day, like, what? Let's talk about that. And what is that? That's next week? Is that in 7 days?
It's the 15th of September, so what, 8 days away?
8 days. Okay, so it's not the ring. It's not you're gonna die in 7 days. Okay.
It's just I saw
God,
an
I hope not. I don't want that thing coming out of that. I don't want that girl coming up out of that well.
Yeah, hell no. Get that get that out of here, man.
I don't want a phone call. I don't want a phone call, and then I'm done.
just don't answer your phone.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, isn't that crazy? So, being very robotic ourselves as a human, how many times you seen people doing this? Like, just looking down at their phone, just being like full on attention. That's all that they're looking at, and
Oh yeah,
instead
yeah.
of a conversation, and like today, even for myself, and like I find myself to be someone who's I'm pretty talkative when it comes down to it. Like, I'll talk with anyone and have whatever, but I don't really try to go out of my way. And today it kind of got out of my way in a sense with the situation, and I ended up having a phenomenal conversation because of it. And it ended up talking about, like that reflection of the COVID, as well as we talked about, helping out like the environment and how music is. And like, I don't know, it was just a really good conversation I didn't expect. It was thrown out of nowhere. And then I'm like, wow, holy smokes, what happens if... But I couldn't obviously go up to every person and expect that same type of conversation, Like, hey, everyone's, rushing to do their thing, and it's not like I want to go jump and do that anyways, but I don't know. It has affected everyone, and it makes me have more sympathy. Sympathy. Ding, ding, ding. But, like, really feel out for people way more. And just like their whole situations, and that's kind of what this has done. But it's also made me like, well, whatever other things and agendas are pushing, like, I guess it really is time to speak up. I mean, the only way for me is via a podcast, my music, and conversations. I'm not against like having a sign and jumping on that fence necessarily, but I also know I don't know, I feel my time's more valuable doing things the way I do them. Like I can't bilocate yet. I can't do it yet.
Oh, and I mean, being out there holding up a sign, how many people are gonna look at that sign and really give a shit? Most people they've already just written you off as a nut, because if you say anything that's outside of the narrative, and there's a few people that might, but if people are woken up, they already know about all this shit. It's like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in the information age, it's all out there. So anybody who doesn't believe it or who doesn't want to hear it, you're not going to reach those people. You know what I mean? It's not a lack of information. It's just a lack of people caring or believing it. It may have been true 20 years ago or 30 years ago that a lot of this stuff was kind of buried, in books and libraries. But now it's just all out there. None of us can really say that we didn't have an opportunity to know what was going on. And I think that that's another tool that we'll call them the cult uses, is that they tell us what they're doing to us. They tell us in movies. They tell us in popular culture. You can see, I remember when I was a kid, Dad, you telling me about that James Bond movie, whichever one it is, where he drives through that moon landing set. You know what I'm talking
Hmm.
about? And
Oh,
like,
it's Diamonds Are Forever.
yeah, and Ian Fleming was a member of MI5 or
And that
MI6,
was
one of those.
that was 2 years after the moon landing
And
that
Sir,
movie
yeah,
was made.
exactly. And like Sir John Dee was the original 007 when he was an occultist that worked for the Queen, I think in like the 1600s. And he always used to write his name as being 007. So Ian Fleming, knowing the history of his organization,
Oh.
yeah. So you know what I mean? Like they put these little nuggets in there, and so you can't really say that you don't know what's going on. There's been times where people could say that, but I think another thing that it does when they kind of tell us what they're doing is that it disempowers us because it's like when you watch a football game and everybody in the stadium knows a team's on the 1 yard line, everybody knows that they're going to run the ball. You know what I mean? And the other team knows it, and that team runs the ball right down that defense's throat. It's demoralizing. When you know what the government tells you what they're going to do, and they do it. And not necessarily even the government. It's like, it's not everybody in government. It's like, it's infiltrated,
Yeah.
and it's people above government. It's the think tanks. It's these non-elected people that are in these organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations and Bilderberg Group and all these people that none of us ever vote for, but that are the movers and shakers, and they decide our fate. Like people
Well,
come.
Leighton. You were talking about Australia, and I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories about what Australia really is. That it's a make believe. Have you heard those? Have you seen those conspiracy theories on the internet
I
about Australia not even being real? It's just a magical place where movie stars live. It's almost like Hollywood, and it's not really like we think it is. Have you ever heard that?
No, but I had a friend that went there and was a farmer, and he came back. So him saying he did that, I would assume he didn't lie to me, and that's why I wanted to go
Well, I
back.
yeah, well, I heard this last week that it wasn't real because we got into this whole at work. We got into this whole 1969 moon landing, Neil Armstrong deal, and then we got to talking about Australia, and I know people that worked in Australia, and I think it was real. I haven't heard anything otherwise. I've never looked that up to see if it's anything like some mythical place that doesn't exist. So I just didn't know what you guys were thinking about that, or if you heard anything about that.
Oh, Australia not existing.
Yeah. Well, it exists, but it's not really what it is. It's like a make believe
Um.
place.
I don't
Well,
know
I mean,
anything. I know nothing about
I
that.
I watch I watch a lot of videos on Instagram of this guy from Australia, and I think he's from Melbourne, and it seems like a legit place. Like, what I do know is going on there though is that you know they're arresting people who make certain comments about COVID on social media. Like there's a lady that was talking about a protest that was going to happen, which I think happened a couple of days ago for Freedom Day in Australia. I think is like the 5th of Australia or the 5th of September is Freedom Day, and they had like these big, protests in a few of the cities. And this lady, she on her Facebook page, all she did was just advertise that it was going to happen. And she was pregnant, and they came to her house and they put her in handcuffs and they arrested her, and they got a warrant and they took the computer and searched it. And that's not the first person. There's been other videos I've seen where they've done the same thing. Cops have came into people's house and they're like, if you continue to make these kind of posts, then it's not going to be good for you. New Zealand as
So
well.
So what do you think? Them creating a vaccine, and they're
No, I think
they're wanting us to do the vaccine, and I don't know if I want to do that
don't
or
take
not.
it. Don't take it because that's where that's where the real bad shit's going to be. Is going to be in that because a virus in the air. I mean, first off, it's not a very deadly virus. Like I was saying before we came on the air, there was a study that was done, I believe, by UCLA, and they found that for people that were in the age of 50 to 64, that your chances of dying from COVID were like 1 in 19 million, and your chances of being hospitalized from COVID were like 1 in 800 and something thousand.
Wow. Wow.
And I can, when we get a chance later, maybe I can, if I can do a screen share
You can try
and
right
get,
now. You're more than welcome to, you know?
all right,
Because honestly, the thing is only about, yeah, I'm going to just, I'm going to customize a really cool picture for our thing. And then for this part, I can.
see. So, am I doing a screen share right now? Can you guys see
Yeah,
what?
I can see me and,
Yeah.
Okay, so, uh, see which one is it? I think it's this one. And can you guys hear that?
no, I can't hear anything yet. Oh, no, I
Okay.
cannot.
All right. Well, let me go back to share screen. Share computer sound. Okay.
Should have been negative.
Yep.
And before Facebook censors this video, or Snopes or PolitiFact tries to slap a fact check label on it, this report came from the New York Times. That's right, the New York.
This isn't the right video. This is a different one. Hang on a sec. Might be this one.
That's got some nude women
Shockingly
in
low number of COVID-19 patients actually died from the virus itself. As One America's Pearson Sharp explains, the vast majority of coronavirus victims died from pre-existing health conditions.
While the mainstream media publishes sensational headlines that the coronavirus is the deadliest disease since the plague, the CDC has quietly updated its figures to show the fatality rate is much lower than previously thought. How much lower? In an incredible revelation, the CDC admitted that the coronavirus was the cause of death in just 6% of patients. It turns out that a staggering 94% of people who died from the coronavirus also had significant other health problems which led to their deaths. According to the CDC, nearly all of the people who died from the coronavirus suffered from other serious illnesses and were also very old. That means of the 160,000 deaths so far attributed to the coronavirus, just over 9,000 actually died from the virus itself. So,
I could just
unless
about
you're an
drink
elderly person
Corona
who
right
already has
now.
major health problems, the chances of dying from the coronavirus are extremely low. When combined with the claim from doctors like epidemiologist Harvey Risch from Yale that up to 100,000 people could be saved by taking hydroxychloroquine, the case for keeping the country locked down completely falls apart. One America News reached out to several doctors for comment on this story, but they said they can't speak for fear of losing their medical licenses. The left-wing elite are trying so hard to cover this story up, they're putting gag orders on doctors to keep them from exposing the truth.
Imagine that.
Report being officially published by the
Wow.
CDC. So far, the mainstream media have completely ignored it, instead continuing to hype a pandemic that seems less dangerous every day. Pearson Sharp, One America News.
That wasn't the one that I was looking for, but that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good. That was really good, and that's kind of the truth of it. I believe there's a lot of overhype, and it's just to restrict, and just kind of like how the automatron situation is a part of a bigger, agenda. I also think the COVID thing is a part of another agenda, and also these race situations. I personally, I mean, I guess I don't witness it, but maybe it's because I'm not living around an area where people are racist and stuff against each other. But I just feel like things are a lot more pumped up and hyped up on the newscast, and it's just making people feel even more uncomfortable around each other because now you have a mask and you don't know what people think. You can't have conversation, and you're supposed to hate this race. And I don't know. It's
Yeah, it's like you said. I don't see it. We see people of all walks of life, all different, you know, denominations, whatever, nationalities. And we talk and we're friendly. They're like not mean towards us or anything or me. And I think it's like you said. I think the media is hyping all this stuff up and trying to get the show on the road so they can go along with their agenda or whatever. But yeah, I don't see it. Everybody's friendly and
Oh,
you know
if you guys remember, before the George Floyd stuff happened, people were kind of coming together on this COVID stuff kind of early and kind of calling it out as being bullshit, and it was like, it wasn't just white people, wasn't just black people. There were people that were of all races that were kind of getting together, sort of saying, hey, wait a minute, locking everything down. This isn't cool. There were protests on it. And then after the George Floyd thing happened, all that pretty much changed. And now the only people that are protesting are people in places like Portland and Chicago and Connecticut.
well, they're not
I know.
protesting, they're
Well, yeah,
rioting.
that's why I air quote it, because the media calls that protesting. When
Yeah.
we all know that is just, that's
And
plain.
now the left has changed their tune now, and they're calling it what it is, rioting, looting, rioting, and they're not. Before the left or Democratic position on that was, oh, that's peaceful protesting, just leave them people alone, and they were letting them destroy everything in these cities,
Well,
and it's ridiculous. People's lives have been ruined over this bullshit,
yeah.
and it's sad, and you see it in these big cities, and we we probably it'll be a long time before we go back to Chicago, and we used to love going to Chicago, and it'll be a long time because I don't know, you know, we may never go back. I don't know.
I don't know. I actually, when it comes back to what anything ever be the same or has it changed
Yeah,
forever, I'm kind of, um, shoot. Either we kind of step up before they try to inject us with something, and like really say, yeah, we can overcome this. We can, for our immune system, and it's not as bad as what it is, and make a change, and maybe not so much of that. I mean, can we even that process? But then this whole robot thing, like, how do we make it so people see? Like, I guess I don't know. Like, why not buy a robot over a human to do work along those lines? And if that's the way things are being pushed to, then is it that we don't believe in each other as the human race to be able to do greater things, and we're just gonna keep?
yeah. Well, I think what happens too is we're moving forward in years, and we're getting all this technology, all this stuff is being made, and technology is going to overtake us, and I don't think we're going to be able to help it. I think it's just going to happen because they're already talking about they have the capability to find out what a person is thinking.
Oh, what with
And
what? Like with some technology very recently?
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
they
please.
they
that
can they can tell what a person's thinking, every thought, and they can take that out of your head.
What?
And
oh yeah,
and they
yeah, that's
and
old
they said
technology.
they hope that people will be smart enough to leave that alone and let people have their own thoughts and everything. But it's just we we're just evolving. We're just going there. Like we're in 2020, and we're just we have all this technology and all this capability and stuff, and it's just we just can't help ourselves. And if whether that's good or bad, I think it's good in some ways, but it's bad in other ways.
We don't have.
Because if you're talking about having robots to replace people. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, those robots don't have health care. The employers don't have to pay health care. They don't have to pay benefits. They don't have to pay a 401k. They don't have all that liability. So, is it cost effective to buy that piece of machinery that costs millions of dollars over the long haul and not have to pay these people vacation days and health care and sick leave and time off? I mean, and all the other stuff when they can just have a robot do it or an autonomous vehicle.
Or it's a devaluing of the human is what it really feels like in one sense. Just like
Yeah.
looking on Instagram, seeing a picture of, like for women, I bet it's even worse. But like seeing a picture, and you're like, wow, look how good they look. And it's like, man, that magazines, everything is so like edited. Everything is so
Yeah.
plastic.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like that's what the dehumanization of the whole entire thing is. Like not in like. Just who cares, whatever, just let it be, or just letting shit happen and people not have a voice. I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like a muzzle, sometimes when I thought about like putting on the mask, I'm like, damn, is that like...
See, I think you guys, you two, growing up like a generation behind me, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And me getting to grow up in the 60s, in the 1960s and the 70s, you would have you'd have better appreciation for the way things are nowadays, and to look back and think, yeah, we've come a long way, but we're really not where we need to be, really. And it was just a simpler time, and I would have never thought that it would have. Well, there you go again. But the technology part of it, it was inevitable. It was bound to happen, and I think people would have a deeper appreciation growing up in the 60s and 70s and knowing the way things were and how simple life was back then. And we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have all this other stuff. We didn't have internet, computers. Well, they had computers. The government had computers, and maybe corporations had big computers. But yeah, it was just a different time, and
But you
I
have
don't know.
And that's the
I think it
thing. And that's the thing. I my generation for myself, I just started seeing video games like really starting to get good, and starting to see people have phones, but they don't have cell phones. Then it goes to cell phones, and then it goes to smartphones. And I did have a childhood where not all of it was the games, but this thing right here. But now as a kid, you see everyone. You pop out of the womb and everyone's on one of these things. And, like, that's just, like, a natural normacy. And I'm happy that at least as a middle school for myself, I wasn't, I was at least outside. And I'm thankful about that because I feel like not enough people enjoy the outside, going on a walk in nature.
Well, when you used to do the drum thing, wouldn't that have been something if you just went out there and walked around and you just pushed a button and programmed that music into your drum, and that played that music, and you didn't even have to do anything.
See, that would
Wouldn't
be
that have been
weird.
something?
It would be, honestly, it wouldn't be as near fulfilling as me actually have to learn everything and do everything. Like having the process of evolution, whether that's like learning a set for the band, or from learning how to drive greater for my job, or losing a certain weight, hitting certain achievements. It's like it's better to enjoy the process and go through it than just bleep and then you know it. Because, I mean, that's like the Neuralink. Yeah, there's some awesome positives I can see with it. If someone couldn't see out of an eye, or they had lost function in like their left arm or right arm, and it could connect and it help them be able to get those feelings back, yes. But connecting on like a database and that's attached within your mind and your brain, that seems a little bit technological. And like part of it's kind of cool because it's like the movie The Matrix. Like, oh, I want to learn this fighting style. Wait a second. Oh, now I know the fighting style. But it's like, could someone hack that? And that's where they can hack your computer and your phone. Why couldn't they hack a Neuralink?
Oh, the other thing too is that in the Matrix, they were slaves, right? You know, everybody in the Matrix were slaves. They, you know, they had the Matrix reality where they thought that they were like eating a steak or whatever, but the real reality was that, you know, they were being harvested as human batteries. You know, which is kind of it's a metaphorical way of kind of talking about the plight of the normal human being, which is like you're just an economic unit in the system. And so, you know, when you get the brain chip, if they offer it, yeah, you might think you're hanging out in the Bahamas, but in reality, you're going to be like at work doing some, you know, some like boring task, you know, where it'll just take a certain amount of mental function, but like you won't be there. Your body will be doing the work. And I don't, to me, you know, we were talking about technology and about how far it's advanced. I think that the thing, though, that has not advanced is our ability to wield that technology responsibly, or our ability to wield that technology compassionately, or to act humanely with it. You know, we're still barbarians in terms of we're still beating each other over the head with clubs, you know, to get what we want, rather than working in you know, tandem with each other and trying to cooperate. I mean, there is cooperation, I guess you could say, and we probably have more cooperation than in certain times of history. But you can see with society right now, the way it's going, like you have the far left and the far right. There's no cooperation. They're just screaming at each other. You know, you've got one group of idiots that believe all this bullshit from this party.
Yeah, and
you got the other group of idiots.
It's never been that bad. It's usually they can come to some kind of an agreement. Now they can't agree on anything ever. Everything's a fight, and they don't give a shit about the American public. It's their agenda, and they're gonna, if they don't get their way, they could give a shit less.
Well, it's not even just them. It's the American people themselves, where people can't have differing opinions and actually sit down and discuss it together. We're to the point now where, you know, everybody wants to get mad and fight about it, rather than just, okay, let's see what we agree on. Say, okay, I like breathing air, you like breathing air. Cool, all right, so we have something in common. You know what I mean? But it's not like that. It's like the lines are so firm that people aren't willing to go and meet each other halfway. It's like, you know, they're picking a side, and it's the typical divide and conquer ideology. Because when you have your two sides, you know, your Catholics and Protestants are a great example in Northern Ireland. You know, you get people that can't live with each other, and they're not cooperating with each other. And of course, we know from history that whole conflict was started by the English crown, because there was so much dissent and there was so much, you know, rebellion from the Irish people. So they're like, hey, let's just split these people up and get them to fight each other. And it's divide and rule. It's the oldest game in the book.
Yeah, and it has been played over and over and over and over again. And honestly, it's hard to even tell people and to look into those things because you can say that to people and they don't wake up to it, and that's a thing where it becomes like, do I have to believe in everyone that we're gonna eventually come together, or do I really have to just like fend for myself and kind of get my own thing figured out?
Well,
Well, you
I
know,
mean,
like the pandemic, the whole COVID thing, and then it was bad enough that we were going through that, the whole country, the whole world, and then all this social unrest on top of it, everything. And it's like we had enough on our plates already with this stuff. Scared, everybody was scared for their wits. They didn't know what was going to happen. And then the George Floyd incident, which I don't, I don't know. I don't know happened. I don't think he was, but I don't think he was a very good guy. I think he was in a lot of trouble with the law, and that was part of the reason. I mean, nobody deserved to die if that's what really happened. I've read conspiracy theories about that whole thing too. That was never real. That was all staged. There was nobody in the casket.
Wow.
But we didn't need all that stuff going on too. We had enough on our plates, and this shit, and it's just, and then all the social unrest, the burning of the burning of the cities, the destroying. I watched one day on a Sunday afternoon in Philadelphia, the BLM took over, and they were getting in squad cars and would put it in neutral, and they would push it down the street into another cop car, and there was 13 squad cars that were torn up altogether, brand new, over $1 million worth of vehicles, and they were inside the vehicles, and they were stealing gear out of the police uniforms and everything, and hats and guns, and they were lighting the engines on fire.
Wow.
And I got really upset that day. And if there was somebody I could have called, I would have. I was very pissed about that. The police were letting that go on, and it was very upsetting to me, and it changed. Yeah, I think it changed me probably forever. Just that one day. And
wow.
I had a really bad. I don't know. I just didn't like the way things were going, and I was lobbying. I wanted to call somebody and get this shit rectified. We don't need this shit tore up, and then the stuff that happened in Lafayette. I know there was stuff that happened in Fort Wayne, but there was things happening in Lafayette. And I watched a video. It was one night. It was like a Friday or Saturday night. They were rioting and looting the Best Buy store at the mall. And they were filming. A guy was filming out of his pickup truck at McDonald's. And
Loving it.
yeah, and then WLFI, the TV station, was on there, but we didn't need all this stuff on top of what was already going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why it feels like it is really just an agenda. Like there's more than one thing being at play. I hear that there's different corporations that were funding different groups to start riots. And
yeah,
we look into that, there's a lot of things that kind of show that, but then it's just like, but people, they deem the term conspiracy theorist, but that was deemed by the CIA, so when people would talk about it.
Those people that talked about the Kennedy assassination, it was kind of during that time that they created that term to discredit people.
Yep, and that's crazy. I mean, that's just that fact alone, and questioning the main story, questioning things that are going on. Like I personally have believed that there's spiritual things that go on. Whether that's the corporate people being pulled by someone else or something else, and so that's kind of always why I've loved that field of study, because I feel like if there's things going on there on the spiritual, and there's other people, humans that also can be kind of psychopathic and push their own agenda and not see people how I see them. I see people as, individuals and, having their own story, and they just see them as cattle, and it doesn't matter. Like, how can I pull as much energy out of this? Throw it to the wayside. And so, believing that that's the system I am in, whether or not that is correct or not, that has caused me to want to play it the certain way, which is, be myself and, like, enjoy what I'm doing, obviously, but also do my best to be able to be a voice to just say, like, look into things, look into your water. Like, I couldn't believe this lady I'm talking to, we're both filling up our water jugs, we're talking about, why do we go here to get our water filtered, not drink the city water? Well, there is fluoride in it. There is fluoride, and they use that in the Nazi camps. They put a ton of fluoride in, and it make the Jews very docile and okay with the process and the things going on around them. Like, they wouldn't have the fight to want to do anything, but it's the different levels, and even just like a certain. Because that's music, frequencies, and you listen to things. Like, really what you're listening to can become a part of your essence. Even listening to people's stories, you can end up learning something great, and you can take it on with you forever. But, I'm just becoming more attuned to that, because the music that I make, and when I send it off, I don't want it to be the same old type of frequency that's been going on, because I feel like lots of the stuff is kind of degrading to the individual, pushing them to just do substance and not find out who they are and love themselves and motivate themselves. And I feel like if people are listening to that and not like the bigger picture, that they are something more than that, and not letting that number one, those corporate, they're trying to make people, fit in these little boxes and not be fed that story and accept that story. Like, actually go write their own story. So I definitely, like, with all the things going on, yeah, it is crazy, but it is waking up people. It's making people see things differently. It's made me see family in some senses very differently. I mean, how much I was making sure I took showers and stuff right when it came out, like, of the care of always making sure I was as sanitary as possible. But it also showed me, like, what happens if they just want to try and push something else. Exactly. If the Australia thing is real, what's going on. What happens if they try that here in America? And what about this and what about that? And actually asking the question and hoping others ask that question. And, even to myself, I'm like, should I go stock up more on things just in case? Or how long has that been going on in Australia? Do either of you know?
I've only been hearing about it maybe for the last month or so. I mean, I don't keep up with Australian goings on too much. I mean, I would a little bit because, it's kind of a cool place, and, the people there seem like they're really cool people. But I know at least probably for the last month or so, that kind of stuff's been going on. That lady who got arrested for that post, I think, was only maybe in the last week, maybe 10 days that happened. But like I said before that, I saw somebody that was in New Zealand, and the cops came to his house, and they were like, you sure you want to continue posting stuff like that? Because if you do, you're going to be arrested and charged. And same in Australia, they're doing that there as well. So I think in America, because we're armed and we have this kind of attitude of rebellion and freedom. Even, I mean, yes, there's a lot of soy boys out there that, are just little pushovers and whatever. And there's a lot of people that are just going to go along with the agenda. But I think there's enough people that are freedom-minded and that are armed that I think that the government knows that they can't go about it that way. And I think that's why the strategy for us was a little different. It was the divide and conquer strategy to kind of like marginalize people on one side or the other, so that way they'd be easier to go after, rather than to have, because if everybody was together and united and we just said, well, whatever problems that we have, whether they be race or sexuality problems or whatever. We're going to put that shit on the back burner right now because we have a more important enemy to fight, and that's our rights being taken away and this tyranny and this future agenda that isn't going to be good for anybody. It's not going to be good for anyone. The only people that's going to be good for are the people that run the show. All of us people on the bottom, it's going to be the world that we don't want. And so I think that that's why they had to divide us, is because it makes us easier to defeat, because we defeat ourselves. We're investing all this energy into fighting each other, not realizing, hey, there's something else going on here. It's not just what you think's going on. There's another hand that you're not seeing. It's like a magic trick, right? Watch this hand while this hand does something else. And like I said, all the things that I pointed out about, the robotic agenda and the AI agenda and the population control agenda, and also like the Neuralink agenda is another part of that, because we're already being separated because of COVID. People are like remotely learning from home, and they're afraid of each other. There's a sense of isolation that people have. People crave. We're social creatures. We crave to be around people and to have conversations and to have warmth and to be loved and to be close to people. And when you don't have that, there's like this void, I think, that a lot of people have in their lives. I don't have it so much because, I've got a big family and we're all together, and so I have that. But for people that believe in that kind of thing, the idea of a brain chip or something like that, where you can just, walk down the street and, have a conversation with somebody through your microchip is, it sounds like a good idea. It does to some people. Hell, we're already like lost in cell phone land where we can't sit down and have a conversation with each other anymore. And, Dad, you're talking about the 60s and the time that you grew up in, but you didn't have the technology that we have, but you guys had something that we don't, and that was genuine human interaction. We don't have that kind of interaction. You guys had each other, and that you didn't need to have Google to know the answer to every question that you had, because it didn't matter. What mattered was the people around you that you loved. And we're losing that. We're losing that ability to be with each other and to have genuine human interactions. And I think that that's bad. That's going to lead us right where, the cult, the big club, the owners, whatever you want to call them, right where they want us to be. Because they don't, from what I can tell, you look at these people, the Bill Gateses of the world, the Elon Musks of the world, the Hillary Clintons of the world, all these people, they don't have any souls. You can look at them and you can see them talking to people and interacting and smiling, but you don't see that kind of genuineness in them. You see like it looks hollow. It's like there's a component missing. They're psychopaths. They're almost not human in that sense. And so it's going to be the world that they want. And if you have one more thought, I'm sorry. If you have like a robotic automated world, you're going to have these machines that don't have any human compassion. So when the robot police officer, it is just trained to follow its programming. So there's going to be no human compassion at all. Like a human being, a police officer, usually, unless they're just total fucking psychopaths, which
So you think it would say we can't have that, can we?
Yeah, and RoboCop, and that was RoboCop was
we can't have that.
It was a commentary on that. you can tell that that movie had a lot of metaphor in there, and that that movie was trying to make a commentary on that, and on, you know, what is humanity, you know, versus machinery. And so when you have this police officer that's robotic, it's just going to carry out its orders. Or just like a robotic soldier, it's just going to carry out its orders. It's not going to be like, hey, you know, this is a village of women and children. I probably shouldn't kill everyone. It's
Yeah.
going to, because there's no humanity.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's once again putting it in the category of the dehumanization of all of us. And you know, I'm not against someone. They can call themselves whatever they want. They can go do what they want with their body. I'm more. If I had to put myself in a social class, it'd probably be more libertarian. I don't really care. Let me just do my thing and peace. Like seriously, it's all cool. But you know, with people, how much, even some, you know, with women or guys, like maybe they'll take some enhancer for themselves, or some women, you know, get this implant, or what the definition of beauty and fulfillment, I think, are so lost when it comes to the human race right now, and it's because of that technology. And it's like, I feel like that's obviously a whole entire part of it. And to really just kind of get that essence, that magical essence out of, like, you know, like when you're a kid, everything is magical. Like, because, wow, holy crap, look at that light. How did that turn on? Or, wow, here's that. And sometimes maybe your parent is or is not, you know, for you, the kid, you know, being able to enjoy that land. Maybe it's, you know, you need to be like this, or you need to be, you know, less an imagination land. And I think that that's like the kind of the greatest part of, you know, humans, is our ideas that we can come up with are infinite and beyond. You know, we really can take things to a whole new level, and it's spectacular to see that within us. And I don't know, it's just like I was telling you, humanity's half-assing, and we're just allowing things that aren't human at all be the things that are the greatest value. And why are we letting that be that way? You know, once again, we're being rolled down that path, or someone judging someone else because of skin color, or hey, you grew up with your parents telling you this is the correct type of Christianity, but you know you don't follow this. It's like, you're right, man. Like from the get go, it's been a conquer and divide from the get go, and I don't know if that's because as above, so below, or like why that is like that. Why have we been like, and if we have been like that, then can the whole entire humanity see that there is someone behind, there is a man behind the curtain at the end of the Wizard of Oz?
Well, it's also a situation where there's something inherent in us that for some reason we don't seem to be able to get along. Like even naturally, I think that, you know, you have a lot of tribalism, and you have, you know, as they say, birds of a feather flock together. You know, you had even say in this country before the white man came here, you had native tribes that were something that you talked about too, like the imagination and how that was, you know, such a wonderful thing. But if you think about it, okay, so at some point, someone had to, we're talking like way back.
Yeah.
At some point, someone would have saw like lightning strike some grass, or would have saw something catch on fire, and that person was like, I'm going to figure out how to harness that. This is something that I see and that has great power. I see like these animals that are running away from it. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to harness that. And the people around him were like, yeah, whatever. You know, they diminished him, or they, you know, laughed at him or whatever. And he did it. Somebody did it. They figured out how to harness that force. And then somebody figured out how to create fire without lightning, you know, through friction, stones or whatever, and some tinder. But somebody had to have the idea and say, I'm going to do that. And there were people around that said, yeah, I doubt that. And then somebody probably watched a bird fly, you know, and they said, hey, someday we're going to do that. And that's kind of how it works, is that, you know, all these different things that we accomplish, they start out up here, and you may not even know how you're going to do it, but you believe that it's going to happen, and we move toward whatever that thing is that we're trying to achieve, you know. It's and it starts in the imagination, because it's your thoughts and what you envision are, before you act, you see whatever you're going to do in your mind, or you get a desire to do something, you know. And the imagination is so important. It's basically like it's the birthplace of everything, you know. Just like if there is a creator or a god, that creator had to imagine all this
Oh, dude,
before it was created.
that's exactly where it all starts from. You know, like the invention of the wheel, the invention of everything. It started in the mind, and like once you see that, then you can be able to understand like to infinity and beyond, because that means that there is a way to be able to help fix the planet, maybe with a technological advance. There is a way to be able to do these things. It's like there's so much that awaits us, but instead of being distracted and saying, "Hey, worry more about your skin and how it's looking or in this picture," it's not thinking on that level. But I think it's just people aren't conscious and thought of that because they're so dived into this. You know, they've never. Maybe they have not had a psychedelic experience. I know that helped me out in my life, but you know, what is it that wakes them up? I'm trying to actually unmute him right now, and it's not working. That's the only issue.
Well, the more that we get into these divisions and that we identify with like all these labels and, you know, all the things that we categorize ourselves as, or as maybe the media categorizes people, and then we just kind of like fall into it. It's like, you know, I'm a straight white Judeo-Christian male, you know. And when you get into these categories where you like identify yourself as that, you start to like, you know, it's almost like this exclusiveness that you start to get, where, you know, you're not really seeing that everybody has like a spiritual component. You know, you're judging people. You're like, well, they're a liberal, so I'm not going to listen to whatever they say. They don't have any good ideas. You know, the more that we identify with all this stuff, I feel like the more we lose the divine spark that's within us all, because that's the thing that unites us all, is our divinity.
Yeah,
If we can see the divinity in everybody, then we would treat everybody good, despite what color they were or what political belief they have, or, you know, because you'd say, well, you're all a spark of the divine, so, and you're all here, so you have purpose, you have value.
Yeah. The one thing that I have been kind of coming across, and it's like 75% of the population. It's like there is this one part of the world that people do understand that and see that about themselves and who they are and understanding that divinity. And those people I can like really, you know, dive deep with. But there's some people that they're not even open enough to look for that or to feel that. And they just think it's maybe mumbo jumbo or this, that, and the other. And it's kind of like, you know, I can't change a stick into a rock. You know, I can only do what I can with so many people. And, you know, I can just be positive, you know, if I'm in the store or I see someone or something like that. You know, I can be a really good person, but I'm not going to go, like, dead out of my way for someone that I can't do anything with at the end of the day. You know, like, if they're really stuck in their way and who they are, that's okay. But I have to know the difference and know my own self-worth. And is that throwing a jewel to the swine, is the proverb, whatever says, you know? And I've been figuring that out too. Like this COVID thing really woke me up to that more than anything. And like, I mean, I love getting and being able to talk to people on podcasts, hearing other people's opinions and things, as well as like talking to people who we can sharpen each other with our experiences and what we've been able to learn and be able to broadcast to the world. You know, like there's a bigger picture going on, and we, as a collective, can do something better about it and becoming aware and not doing something irrational. I'm not saying go riot to the streets, but I am saying like let's do something. You know, like whether that be just be nicer. Just be happier with your, be full of gratitude. At least we have running water in this country. If you have internet, you probably are living in the top 10% of the world, you know? Honestly, I mean, Jesus criminy, we're not one of those kids. Like, there's sex trafficking going on. I've talked about it with my music, with you multiple times. It's like, it is going on. And actually, something crazy is someone today who I know from my old job, I found out he got fired, and it was because he was doing something along that line. It's not like to that level, but I was like, dude, I can't, I don't even know who is, who isn't. Like, it blew my mind that this individual would do something like that. And I'm like, my God, like, that's why I'm just authentic and real who I am, and just like, you know, we shoot towards the world with positivity and being the best we can. I mean, there's obviously dark times, dark nights of the soul, as well as evolution, which isn't always the easiest, but, you know, I think with that light shine forth, we can really figure out the next best thing for the human evolution that's not so anatomic, without a doubt. We need to make it something more natural, but, you know, also, you know, I'm not, but don't get it wrong, I'd love to do space travel. I'd love to be a space expeditioner. You can go checking out different lands and stuff. So I'm just going to make a kick-ass thumbnail.
Oh yeah, no, it was good, and I mean, it was cool to really kind of expand upon the different aspects of COVID and on, you know, the different agendas on the go, and to kind of help people understand, because I think that it's probably hard for people to tie it all together.
Oh yeah.
Because, you know, just because, I mean, number one, a lot of people are just scared, like not just scared of the virus itself, but scared of what's going to come out of it, and scared of, you know, being forced to take vaccinations, and scared of, you know, their fellow citizens acting crazy and trying to, you know, get them to wear masks or get them to take vaccinations. And so I can understand why people maybe are having a hard time kind of putting it together, just because, you know, no matter what, a lot of people are in a fear-based mindset. You know, they're uncertain about the future financially. You know, they're uncertain about everything right now. They're uncertain about the election. And I can understand why people would feel that way. I mean, me personally, I have my own uncertainties, you know, with like financial stuff and taking care of a family and all that. But in the back of it, I always have this faith that is at the very back that pushes me forward. And it's like, yes, shit might be going down the tubes, and maybe everybody's not going to be okay, but you're going to be okay, and the people in your circle are going to be okay, because, you know, it's just how it's going to be.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that you're right. I know at one extent, like, I know my ultimate plan, like, really is to, I'm going to find land and then make a mini house 1,000 by 1,000 feet, having all my essentials. I still want internet. But, and then I want to be able to have my own, like, little garden and stuff. But I'm still going to get, you know, a freezer and get some shit, you know, that I'm going to need to have some backup supplies. But to have my backup supply, because if I don't have that, I'm not prepared at all. And I have to make sure that I have that together. But, so, like, till then, what I'm doing, you know, like with here, making sure we have backup stuff supply. I make sure I have 5 gallons of water held back up. I have a ton of rice. I know how to make the generator work. You know, things come to a certain level. Plus, we have a cornfield behind our house. That's pretty corny. But, you know, just being prepared, and even, you know, the way I eat and take care of myself now, I make sure I do like way better and like exercise. So if anything does happen, I can run, I can get away, and I can't speak for anyone else's health. You know what I'm saying? But I know it is okay with me, and I know I really want to push through all this, no matter what bullshit comes, whatever happens. I want to be able to push through and be able to be a survivor, make it through. So I have to play the game on all sorts of ways, but I'm also not one to play it recluse. I'd rather place out as much truth as I can, so I never look back at my life and say I wish I would have. I refuse to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to be that person that could have probably put the answers or put information out there for people that were seeking it and be that person that was too scared to speak up. You know, you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be like, was it Alexander Solzhenitsyn? He was a Russian writer, and he talked about how when they were in the camps up there in the Gulag Archipelago in Russia, he talked about how mad they were about the fact that they didn't do anything when the Soviet NKVD came and they took people out of their apartments or their homes, and the people that weren't getting raided, they could hear it, and they just were too scared to do anything about it. And eventually, the NKVD came for them, and he writes in the book about how mad they were, and he said I guess we just didn't love freedom enough. He said basically he was like, if we would have took pickaxes or knives or whatever we had and made that whoever that police officer was think twice about what he was doing when he kissed his family goodbye before he went to do that, that they could have prevented it.
Damn, that's actually I just saw a movie where that exact actual situation happened, where someone got murdered and the guy was staying there and he could have prevented it and it would have prevented a lot of things from not happening. And that's kind of why I'm so like action. I'm an action based person because like if I can prevent or help, move the timeline into one that's more favorable for all humanity, well then I'm gonna do it. Yeah, maybe someone can do this, that, and the other, but that's why I'm like so into the spiritual aspect of things. I mean, I'm really deep down that occult hole, and I love it. I mean, I feel great, but I feel very protected, and I feel like I'm able to do things with more. I have a feeling of like an armored shield, and like I'm protected out here. So as long as my actions on the outside don't get me in any trouble by being a fool, then I'm gonna be fine, and I'm gonna be able to do all the things. But it's like once you're being is doing it out of like an ego stupid, like it's just for me, not for everyone else, I feel like the universe doesn't align with you as much. So that's why I have to do it all with authenticity, all positivity, so I don't have anything come back and bite me in the ass, because that's to be honest, that's kind of how I feel with my music. I'm like, well damn, well the shit I'm going to be speaking, especially in these new songs coming out, I'm like, all right, but you know what? I'm also like, I don't give a shit. I'd rather 100% go for it and then have someone try and do something instead of fucking what if. But shit, man.
Well, it's better to die a warrior's death than a coward's death,
Exactly, man.
Warrior's death, they can only kill you once, so it's going to be a lot better to die, fighting for what you believe in than being an old man dying and being ashamed of being a big coward.
Yeah.
It's my opinion.
I agree.
And I've got a spiritual belief anyway that there's more to it than this dense 3D reality. There's more to it. There's something else behind it. There's another spiritual reality. There's several realities, I'm sure, different planes of existence. And so I feel like if something happens in this reality, then my spirit still goes on.
Yeah.
And I also believe that this is the world where spirit and matter come together. And so we have to do what we can to make the world as good as we can, to whatever burning desire from the creator that we are given, like the good desire, not like people that want to hurt people or whatever or kill people, but the desire to do good is a gift from God. And so we are like shortchanging our divinity by not doing that. Like, because you're being called, you have a purpose. God is saying, this is what I want you to do. And if you don't do that, then I feel like you're still, I'm sure you're still forgiven in the end, because, we, my opinion and belief is that, we're all God experiencing itself in a subjective fashion. Like, the name of God in the Bible, one of the many names, was I am.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, to say I am, I'm aware, I exist. So everything that you ever say after you say I am is secondary to I am. But when you say I am, you're invoking the name of God.
And
You know what I
that's
mean?
if you look at the Bible, it's saying Yahweh or whatever, and you say it's you, I am. It makes a little bit more sense. It almost becomes a book of incantations at that point.
And I mean, the different names, like Elohim is like plural. It means, the gods. But what it's talking about with the Elohim is like us. It's like talking about God in a different form. Like, if we're all individually, like points of God's consciousness that's experiencing itself, like, basically it would be like being in a movie where you play all the parts, but you don't realize that you're playing all the parts, is how you could describe like God coming down into reality. God, the only way that God could do it would be to forget that they were God.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. That was one of the things with the I think it was the Mormons. The way they believe that like everyone is a god, but like the ones that are called fallen angels are the ones that came down here that are gods that know they're gods, and then the ones that are called angels are the ones that are come as gods but don't know that they're gods, and something like that. And it's like kind of that same little premise of the story. It's like I believe that too, and there's different, what all. But the thing like I truly know is like what reflects in here is going to reflect out there.
Yeah.
So like with that mentality, it's like how can the world not be going at a good flow if everyone was just doing their part in it, And I'm not saying I do my part perfect all the time or anything like that, but I just feel like it's like knowing that divine essence is there, and that's really like the fire on why I do what I do, man. Like really, it's like god damn, man. If everyone just knew, like to me, I was so depressed because I didn't know, I didn't have any idea about any of that shit, and now I do, and I don't want to die. I'm not suicidal. I'm not worried about all that shit. I feel good, so it's about just spreading that message and popping it off, man. Giving them little downloads.
It's a spiritual thing too. Like, you've got to have the change of spirit to change everything, because when you have the change of spirit, it radiates out into every aspect of your life. Like, it'll radiate out into how you take care of your body,
Yeah.
what you put in your body, how you treat other people, how other people treat you. It all has to start from here in your center, your spirit, and then it all radiates out, but it has to be a change. Like the word sin means to miss the mark. So what it means is like you're off. You're like off from where you should be. That's all sin is. It's like where your mindset's not right, or your heart is not right. Your heart is doing the wrong thing, or your heart desires this thing, but instead of you going about it the right way, you go about it the wrong way. Like, say somebody that is looking for love or whatever, and they you know they have this emptiness inside of themselves. It's not necessarily like that they have anything wrong with anybody else, or that that people can fulfill them, and like they sleep with all these people or whatever, but the emptiness never goes away. The emptiness is always there because they're trying to fulfill what they need in their heart the wrong way. They're sinning because they're missing the mark. They're not addressing it in the proper way. And so when you repent, a repentance is like a change of attitude is all. Is what a repentance is. It's not being it's not being like, like I'm going to be sorry forever and like now I'm a sinner for the rest of my days and I'm going to beat myself up. Like repentance is just a change of attitude. That's it. And when you do that, everything changes.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. No, that is like super awesome, man. That makes so much sense because anytime I would go to confession, that's what the idea was in my head. It's like you say you're done, so then you change your mind state, who you are. It's not just say something to just say it so you can say whatever. It's a psychological thing. And that's the thing. I feel like lots of people don't take things what they should take them for. They just take it for like, oh, whatever. But like metaphorically or whether it's, real, really driving at me. And that's a really great thought. I'm happy you said that. Because that is what it is, not hitting a mark. And that's not hitting a mark against some being. It's hitting a mark against your own self. Like, I have a higher self, and I know what's right, and I know what's wrong. And, like, when I'm cheating myself...
Yes, you know it. You know you are. And it sucks because you can make 1,000 excuses for why you did it and why, so-and-so deserved it or why you couldn't do that or, why you pussed out. And we all have those feelings when we're being illegitimate with ourselves. And we do it all the time. It's like these little like compromises that we make where like, say I need to go to the store and I'm like, man, I'm sick of wearing a fucking mask and I want to just walk in there without a mask, and if somebody says anything to me, I'm just going to tell them fuck you. But I don't do that. I go in there and I wear a mask, and then, I feel kind of like less than myself because I know something to be wrong and I'm not challenging it. And some people would say, well, it's not your job to do that. But it's like, well, if I want to see a change in the world, I want to see people not following all this crap. I need to be the change that I seek.
Yeah. I want it to be the change you want to see in this world. I saw that on a panel on someone's household. And I thought it was so corny, but it was so cool, and that's number one. And, I guess maybe the 14th I won't be wearing one. We'll see what happens. I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing what happens with that.
15th, I think.
15th, okay. Well, no, you're totally right. You totally said that earlier. So 15th. Well, you know what, man? I'm actually going to use the end of this. I'm going to cut up that one part, but I'm going to use the end of this in a video because this was excellent conversation added on top. I appreciate your time, man, and not this next weekend. I'm going to be out of town. Probably not the following. But the one after that, let's get you back on. See if we can get a couple more wolves in here, and keep this going, man. I mean, I'm going to figure out this program better, so I'm not going to frickin' stay here for 20 minutes. But thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on here. This is great.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me and giving me a platform to talk to people, even if we only go out and reach a handful of people. I mean, it's better than doing nothing. And who knows, maybe someday this channel will be huge and you'll be a big YouTuber and
everyone will see it. Yeah,
we'll actually make a difference in the world because ultimately it's got to start in here. But I think if you're genuine in here and you have that kind of like spiritual fire and it's from a legitimate place, I think that other people can resonate with that because the divinity in them sees the divinity in you.
Yeah.
And it translates, and it's like long lost friends or something that are reunited. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes when you meet these people that are really awake, you maybe have never talked to them before, but you start to talk to them and you have these great conversations and you feel like you've known them for eons.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
feel like
And
you've known them for eternity, and it's just this comfortable. It's just hard to describe it.
it is.
And
It's trippy. It's actually very trippy. And those are the people that have had the most significant value of change to me. Is those people who have those feelings about. And it's just like, I don't want to call other people bots. Because that's, whatever. But these people are so unique and so, like, they shine so differently
Yeah.
that they're drawn. It's a magnetism. And they inspire me so much. And, like, that